All right. God, see this plastic water bottle? God, that's stupid. We should always use refillable bottles. You always hear everyone's talking about microplastics and plastics in the ocean. Who cares about that? I mean, really, we've been hearing that our whole lives. What does that really matter to us? But like, it really should matter to you because like 80% of humans have microplastics in them. So there's a really, really good chance, especially if you eat a lot of fish, there's a very good chance that there's microplastics in your blood. And last time I checked, I'm not a doctor or anything, but having plastic in your blood is like not the best for your health. So stick around here. We're gonna talk about this issue and like ways to fix it and explain more of the problem in detail.
It's important to know about plastics and microplastics in the ocean and the effect they have on marine life. They affect all aspects of marine life, even coral, plankton, fish, no matter how big or small they are. And they generally build up microplastics in these coastal environments because the tide brings them in. And so that's where it's killing the coral. And there's a lot of fish that are located there on the coastline too, living in these coral. And the coral actually ingests the microplastics because through eating plankton and just through ingesting water and dispersing it, it just gets into their system. And with these microplastics in their system and in their tissues, coral actually, it can lead to a reduction of feeding capability and lowering in energy reserves, and then can gradually kill them, which will then kill the environment for other marine life.
Plastic? That's bad. All right, so another reason why it's important to solve the microplastics problem in the ocean is because of its effects on marine life. On average, 30 to 60% of the sampled fish had either microplastics in them or on them. This could be in their gills, on their scales, or in their bloodstream / in their body. And they could have gotten this from eating a fish that already had microplastics or from microplastics that are mixed with the sediment or just floating around in the ocean. This is a big problem because plastic has additives which are chemical and toxic, and when released can cause bodily harm and disorders. And then just a statistic for you, the ratio of plastic to fish in the ocean is 1 to 3 tons, and that is 600 plastic bags for every 10 kilograms of fish.
One hazardous environmental impact that microplastics have on the environment is that when ingested by an organism, it can cause blockages in the digestive system and abrasions on internal organs, which ultimately lead to death, destroying the ecosystem. Another hazardous impact is that microplastics allow a breeding ground for organisms. It allows them to travel further in the environment than they normally would.
Going off of what Caleb said, another environmental impact of microplastics is bioaccumulation, which is where one organism, such as just a small fish, eats on microplastics, which innately is not a horrible thing, but many of these microplastics have bad chemicals in them, such as pesticides, DDT, and other toxins. And as those smaller fish eat those plastics, those smaller fish are then eaten by larger fish, and those larger fish are eaten by even larger fish, eventually until you have too much toxin in fish flesh or other organism flesh, and it bioaccumulates and can cause death or harm. This is a graphic that I made demonstrating bioaccumulation. So that's 1 milligram per liter of toxin in the trash or microplastics. And then that gets into 12 different fish, and each of those fish have a concentration of 12 milligrams per kilogram of that toxin. Into those next fish, they have 48 milligrams per kilogram. And then we get into the big swordfish. It's common with swordfish and tuna to have very high bioaccumulation numbers, such as mercury and even these toxins from microplastics, and that can eventually get into humans, which will in the end kill other people. So microplastics don't directly affect humans in this way, they indirectly but still can harm.
As we've previously seen, reducing microplastics in the environment is very important. But how do we reduce something that we can't even see with our own two eyes? To do this, one of the most effective ways is through limiting our use of disposable plastic water bottles. As you can see, the average surface area of a water bottle is 36,800 square millimeters, and the average threshold for something to become a microplastic is something that is less than or equal to 5 square millimeters. So when we do the math, we get that each disposable plastic water bottle can produce 7,360 microplastics over time as they break down. Furthering the math, we see that if each person on Earth uses one disposable water bottle per week, we produce 2.966 times 10 to the 15th microplastic particles per year. It's really time for us to step up and stop using disposable plastic water bottles in turn for reusable ones so that we can help our environment. Cutting back on our amount of disposable water bottles will help the environment a ton. Something that's very often overlooked is plastic used in packaging and wrapping almost everything around us. According to a scientific report by Nature.com, just the act of opening these things alone generates 4 times 10 to the negative 8th grams of microplastic every time we do it. So if we get that each person opens one of these packages per day, we get that a little over 113,000 grams of microplastic are introduced into the environment just because of us. It's time to call on these companies to quit using disposable plastic to wrap their products and find a more biodegradable and safer alternative to this. Overall, by imposing the steps listed above, we can greatly reduce our microplastic output in the environment and the world today.